All right, we wanted to kickstart this panel discussion today. I'm really excited to be with you guys. I'm Karima Hakim. I'm heading the Ventures and Ecosystem Building at Fawry. And I'm joined by what I really call, and I'm insisting on giving this title, the MVPs of the investment scene, whether just regionally, locally, or even seasoned investors who are joining us today with international experience. Just to give you a quick introduction of how we will take it forward before we give the floor to the panelists, where they will introduce themselves and give one or two lines on their organization and perhaps really tell you maybe one or two business news that they have. Today we want to approach the long-term investment strategies of VCs on two different lenses. So the first one, we'll talk about why post-pandemic we needed all of us to revisit our strategies, whether we are startups, VCs, corporates, governments. We had to take a step back and really look into what we were doing, how fast things were going, and now maybe look at a more defensible, longer-term strategy for sustainability. By sustainability, we don't mean impact sustainability per se, but actually looking back to what are the small things that we are using these days to express long-term vision. The first thing that I was mentioning to one of the panelists today is the terminologies we're using. We're no longer calling for investments, but we're calling for partnerships. Some startups or really growth stage ventures or actors, growth stage companies came once to me and told me, yeah, what do you think of the strategic partnership opportunity? I'm like, aren't you looking for investments? They're like, yes, exactly. So now we're really looking towards and even using the language of partnerships to come up instead of saying investments. We also want to take this opportunities, given that this is an investor-only audience. Some of you guys are joining us online, but for the physical audience, all of us are investors or at least have a footprint in the investment scene. So we will take the opportunity to ask the investment professionals here to give us career advices on how to source the pipeline better, on how to look into it from that long-term perspective. Sometimes it comes with personal choices that are driven by venture building and creating venture studios, or really taking a different approach to our prospect pipeline. I will start with saying a warm welcome to Hussein. Hussein, you're joining us from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I assume, and you're here with us online. So how about we start by saying hello to you, making sure that your microphone is working and we can all hear you.
Hello, hi everyone. I wish I was there also. I heard lots of people there, and I'm sad that I missed out on attending. I'm glad I was here virtually with you guys.
Thank you, Hussein. So Hussein, can you just give the audience very quickly which organization do you represent, and maybe in one line, a few business news that you have?
Sure. So I'm part of Tech Investcom. Tech Investcom is an investment firm with a 1 billion riyal capital to invest into technology. We started as private equity and went into venture capital, investing into Series A, Series B investment rounds. We invested into companies like Foodex, Monjuro, Luxury Plus, Breezat, and many of the regional startups. And we are happy to hear that many of our startups now are reaching to the next level. Breezat and Foodex are in their next rounds, and we recently just exited Monjuro to a corporate company called Attar.
Congrats. Thank you. Ahmed, Gomaa, غني عن التعريف, and I'm very lucky to be moderating a panel where you were just there on, and I was lucky to have worked with you for the past 2 years. So please give us a quick background on Egypt Ventures and maybe one or two business news.
Okay, Egypt Ventures is a government funded VC, and the role was actually to start 3 accelerators, Falak being 100% owned by Egypt Ventures. We have a joint venture with EFG Hermes, it's called the EFG EV FinTech, and we have also a stake with Flat 6 Labs. We're also doing direct investments. And just to give a small background, I've been doing this business since 1899, and we've actually team that actually invested in the first technology fund in Egypt and the Middle East back in 2004.
في جنسي investor بقى تيجي بعديها البانل الجاية. Anurag, my new friend, how are you?
Hi.
Yeah, does it work?
Hi.
Go for it.
I'm Anurag, I was part of Amal Technology Fund. I head the growth fund under Amal Technology Fund, which is known as Jasoor Ventures. So, as I said, it's a growth fund. We invest into growth stage companies, primarily at pre-Series A, Series A. If it's our portfolio company, we also go into up to Series B. Mandate is to look at all across the region, sector agnostic. So yes, in terms of recent news, yes, we were one of the first round investors in Sobel, so we had that good news that Sobel will be exiting. In Egypt, we also invested in Home Smart, early investors in Home Smart. So yeah, I also would like to add that I've been coming to Cairo for a few years, but this is my first time to Alexandria and this Technique Summit. One of the nicest startup events that I've been part of, and I look forward to coming again and again. I'm really happy that I came this year.
Thank you, Anurag. And so yesterday I met Anurag and he was telling me how he now goes and pitches the VC value add by saying, well, I had the vision. We were first investors in Swivel, first investment in HomeSmart, and honestly, that stuff works. Thank you. Fadi Antaki, يعني غنى عن طريق برضو, my clubhouse friend. Please just give us a quick background on the multiple ventures that you've done, notably A15 that you're representing, and some business news if you want to make it relevant to the audience here.
Thank you, Karima. It's always good to talk to you. Hi everyone, my name is Fadi Antaki. I'm a partner in A15. A15, since 2015, we started it. We invest in startups. We're a VC. We invest in startup different categories, mainly focused on edtech, e-commerce, and fintech. We invest and venture build. So besides being a VC, we're more of partners to entrepreneurs. So we work with them to actually build the companies that they want to build. We have good success in 3 major exits. One to Rocket Internet, the other to Helios Investment Partners, and the third this year to Alif Holding, Connect Ads to Alif Holding. And lately, one of the companies that are going quite well that we invested in as a VC is Payment, doing many follow-up rounds.
This is where the defensibility will come in handy. Thank you, Fadi, and obviously, last but not least, for sure, Amal, please give us maybe a quick round on 500 Global, your role, everything you're doing.
Sure. I mean, you said it 500 Global, right? So I'm a partner. I'm a partner at Sanabil 500. I'm part of, obviously, the network, the global network of 500. We just rebranded from 500 startups to 500 Global, so that's why I was commenting on this. I mean, the rebranding came as part of an evolution over the years. We started by investing through accelerator cohorts, basically, in pre-seed and seed. Over the years, we started to put money in Series A and Series B. Recently, we led on Sarwa in the Series B. And there will be so many other companies that we come into. As for Sanabil 500, it's a pre-seed and seed stage accelerator. We invest by cohorts. It's across MENA. We have a lot of applications from Egypt that we're so proud to receive and have, in every cohort actually that we're getting. In general, 500 actually has more than 33 unicorns globally. We're hoping to see more, in the MENA region as well. Inshallah. And I'm very pleased to actually be here among you, and hopefully we can talk more, in the coming few minutes.
And I strategically started from this side, so I can start with you. You can keep this because we're on to your questions first.
Sure.
So basically, when Amal and I started talking about how to prepare for the panel, we just laid out straight what does 500 provide for the startups that is unique. And one thing she mentioned was that 500 Global is now a platform, and not just they don't just invest, but really they're here to accompany and avail that massive global platform to each other. And From your perspective, now given that capital has been available and VCs are pumping money left, right, and center, how do you see 500 Global as a platform enabling that long-term strategy for startups to understand the real value of investors?
Yeah, I really like that question because for every startup that's fundraising, I always say go back to the basics and to the roots. Why are you fundraising? Right? Is it about meeting certain milestones? Is it about expanding to another market? Are you recruiting more people? Always go back to the roots and ask the why. Once you define why you're fundraising, you will know what are the values that you will require from your investors, whether they are angels or actually later stage, kind of investors. As for 500, we always normally come as the first check. If not, we come, with the angel investors at the early stage, especially in the fund that I'm working on. So the value that we actually look at, obviously opening that platform, across the globe, it starts with onboarding the startups to the accelerator, which we highly recommend, going through that journey because we work on growth hacking. It's about defining where the startup, what are you working on, what are the challenges that you're facing, and we bring our entrepreneurs in residence to work with you on all of these stuff, plus opening that kind of global platform, obviously, so you can utilize it. The other thing I would say is we're there to stick. Most of the startups that we invested in, actually we still have a relationship with them today, so they come back, for support and for other follow-ons expanding to different, markets that we have presence in, so that becomes also very useful. And obviously we always want to double down, on the companies that meets these milestones.
The Harvard graduates, the Harvard alumni network, those are tight. Everyone's helping everyone. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. I'll move to Hussein, who's behind us right here. Hi, Hussein. Hussein, in our call, and honestly, I'm referring back to our prep calls and individual calls because it's the easiest way to ask a question without making it seem boring. So Hussein, you mentioned that you guys had different approaches as starting from a PE vision maybe 12 years ago and now looking at smaller tickets going into the VC space. How do you see this maybe as a validation of a private equity vision firm looking towards these tech startups, a bit volatile for you? How did you manage this transformation within the organization?
Sure. So the transformation happened within the 3 years ago when we started to see the market dynamics and the way the investments were happening at that time. We're looking at money going into private equity, looking at money going into venture capital and calculating that return. We started to adapt quickly the way we did investment, our investment criteria itself. But we took it gradually. We didn't go right away pre-seed, not knowing how to do more earlier stage companies. We went with Series A and B, and we did that for 2 years. And then we started to adapt also now with the increase in valuation and also having created that experience, we started to do also seed now with other investors. And we noticed that one of the strengths that we have to do is try to find our advantage point. There's many capital, as mentioned before. What can we add to the table to these startups? So we looked right away to our firm and how it's structured. It's not like any other fund. It's more an investment firm. Our shareholders are very close. They represent people in retail, in banking, in construction. So we reached out to them and made sure that we are going into these startups and try to find that strategic value. And if they are convinced, the right way to invest in these companies and do these investment business introductions and get them on the ground running. So that's our advantage that we thought that we can add in that market, in addition to our know-how and our connections here in Saudi, where we can help them right away expand their regional company looking to go into Saudi.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Hussein, for this. I'm going to just give a quick shout for Fadi here because in my opinion, and I feel like a lot of people can agree on this, A15 has one of the strongest portfolios in the region, and maybe even the strongest in Egypt. So with some dragon exits you've done, and where do you find this endurance? Having this large, strong portfolio of companies brings so much pressure on these on the VC managing it, or on the fund that really kickstarted it? And how do you defend your position with these companies? Is it one fund after the other, follow-on funding, or what's your endurance strategy?
It's quite hard work, lots of hard work.
It has to be.
Now, we were lucky when we established the A15 fund. The first deal that we've done is that we acquired already some mature companies there. And with a very good network establishment with around 17 offices across the whole region, so North Africa and the Middle East and so on. And we use this wealth to be able to invest in companies that we can help them through the network grow. So it was very easy for us, for example, to scale T-Pay by starting it as an internal idea, turn it into a company and scale it in 2-3 years, have it a super growth company, profitable, and we're able to sell it in 4 years. So first, we're lucky with the wealth that we got into it. With all the backgrounds and all focused on building ventures, so we're very heavy into operations. We have a very strong governance across all the companies where we build, where we invest in, to make sure that every single line in the business is taken care of. And I'm talking about even some of the small things that you don't see when, besides the business and growth and product market fit and so on, but also the small things that have to do with your taxes, with your social insurance, all the things that would make a small idea or a startup really a strong company that can stand on its feet. So that's on the venture bit, and we've used this also to do the VC investment direction as well. And of course, with the companies that we like, we always leave a bit of gunpowder aside to be able to do full-on investment and grow the companies and be part of their success journey. And the example I gave is Gomaa, is that when they came in, we were the first VC to come, and now we defended our position in the second and third round, and we see huge growth on that.
You keep defending it,
yes.
Fund after fund.
At a certain point, you can't really do that.
Yeah. But yes, so the flexibility is key then. Great. I'm just going to add, because you mentioned the hands-on part. So your venture studio or venture strategy, do you have a specific, let's say, how do you choose the right opportunity? Do you focus it on sectors, or?
Of course, we focus on the sectors where we understand and where we have experience in and where we can support. And we focus on the entrepreneur himself, on the team, to make sure either he has the experience to build this, so we build it with him, or he has done it before, or he has the network and access to take it to the next step. And that's how we do it. And of course, we have to have the culture and the instinct part is very important at the idea stage versus the math. The math maybe is later on, but at the start, it's very hard to do the math.
Yeah.
It's more instinct, more experience, network.
Absolutely, thank you. And perhaps, Anurag, you can tell us more on Tech Fund. How do you actually support, given the resources you made available and that hands-on? You told me about the specialization that VCs sure can make introductions left, right, and center as well to their portfolio company, but comes a certain time, startups need to stop and actually think, I'm going with this guy for the regulatory arm, maybe with extra support that will add, for example, to Ahmed Gomaa's edge as well. So what can you give us as an example on the startups choosing their right VCs?
Yes, we were speaking yesterday, like after the post-pandemic, most startups, VCs, starting to look at these funding rounds as partnerships. It's not just me as a startup raising Series A, B, or C round from a VC. It's more of a partnership. So similarly, when they see this as a partnership, they also choose their VCs accordingly. And I think Amal initially mentioned that if you go back to the basics, why you're raising this round. So that will give you the answer on which kind of VC you want. Because many times I've seen that there are some smart startups out there who are choosing the VCs accordingly, but many times they go for the big names, or they think that these guys will do the network, open the networks for us, but probably that is not what you need. Or now if you are growing organically or you're doing well. So you might need maybe some help on the regulatory side of it. You might need some help on the technology on the product side, maybe cleaning your data, house cleaning your data, organizing yourself for the next round. So in different pieces come with different expertise. So that is important to realize that for me in this round, maybe this piece is more relevant and he can help us be more prepared for the next round.
Would you put yourself in one of the boxes here? Like the Oman Technology Fund, or maybe you as an investment professional, what is your favorite hands-on support you like to have?
I love coming into a company and cleaning up the data room, because I think it's a very basic thing. Some people might laugh, but then most companies suffer. Most companies suffer from that, because when we go into a company and see like ask for information, it should be basic. And we are not talking and dealing with like at a growth stage. We're not dealing with companies which are like just starting from place. They've been into the business. They've been there for a few years. So at least your information, your data should be in order. Now we're talking and raising funds for more and more sophisticated investors. So it is all the more necessary to have information ready. I love to help from startups that have done some work with this on many might not know, but in Trucker, I built a captive relationship. It's like an automated captive, which like many people like it, and many startups are using it today. So, and many VCs like me, my friends like Shuru guys, Ego, Amrupaz, Oryx, these guys use that captive. So, I like to go detailed, get my hands dirty, but help these founders. Sometimes start preparing a pitch, like even if I'm not fundraising, but at least start building the story, because when you need the funds, you start building it's like you're under pressure, you don't know what story you want to portray. So this is a continuous journey, and you should be prepared for it and keep ready for yourself. I also promote startups to clean their legal warehouses, because it can become a mess the more and more later stage mature company becomes. It's always good to have a clean sheet from starting, so that when you go later on, you don't get stuck into these issues. Some of our companies which did really well, I don't want to mention any of these, but they're not stuck because of this thing. So one of the companies which raised a large series around, but then the round was delayed by 8 months, as long as 8 months, only because of a few legal issues they didn't take care of at early stage. And I remember exactly writing in my investment memo, these are the risks of this company.
So even what you just said is not just an advice for the startups, and given our audience being seasoned investors as well, this is kind of also something that investment professionals or aspiring investment professionals need to take into account before looking into or while sourcing their pipeline. Yeah.
Definitely, and that's why we also went ahead and invested in Clara Legal Tech Platform, because I really like that, and I think we should embrace more and more investment as VCs also, promote our startups to go there and create account, keep this and it's like an ongoing process. It's not like whenever you are fundraising, just do a legal DD. You don't have to do a legal DD if your house is clean.
Okay, amazing. And Ahmed, I'm just going to add one thing about Egypt Ventures, where I had a lot of great encounters and one of my best memories when I was working at Falak. Would you consider, and this is not because I'm biased towards Falak whatsoever, but would you consider that one of the strategies of Egypt Ventures of having long-term sustainable investments is to put its bets on an accelerator like Falak, where you could source your pipeline from there, getting exposure early on, very early stage companies, and you take it from there and build that bridge for these companies?
Of course, absolutely. First of all, let me thank you for being part of our team at some point in time.
Yeah, I feel my round.
But let me just it's the role of angel investors and accelerators, and I'm not going to differentiate, is extremely important. They take the idea from scratch, from zero, to an investable idea as far as we're concerned. So angel networks, they do it on a personal basis. Accelerators, they do it on a institutional framework. I do believe that without them, it was very difficult back in 1999 and 2004 to find ideas and spend so much time to train entrepreneurs on a lot of things that actually today it's on a spoon. It's delivered to us on a spoon because it is the accelerators that do a great job. It is the angel networks that have filled a wonderful space. So to be honest, it is definitely easier to take pitches that are ready compared to pitches where we used to have to get involved in with the entrepreneur and a lot of mentorship at a stage which we were not supposed to be doing back in 20 years ago or 17 years ago. So definitely the impact of accelerators in the value chain has actually made the pipeline much richer than without accelerators.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And maybe we'll go back to our friend Hussein, who's behind you right here. Hussein, just tell us, is a venture studio or venture focused strategy on the table for you guys at the moment? Maybe given that you want to be the local partner, bringing companies that want to establish or enter market in the kingdom, the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Would you also look into building things from scratch instead of supporting partners who have some flesh or have some solid core business elsewhere to come into Saudi, but do the opposite and venture build them from scratch?
So having them as an entrance to Saudi market is something that we do explore because we know that is a desire of many of the startups, having that partner that really helps them know, explore exactly in Saudi who are the right connections, who are the right people to talk to be able to do that expansion in the right way. That is definitely one of our key playing schemes that we want to use. But becoming a venture studio is a bit still it's in the earlier stage. We've seen and explored many of the venture studios here in Saudi and the region, and we're still trying to find the right formula that helps these startups be able to raise future rounds, as many of these haven't really created the right way of working between the great team that helps build those companies and how much they continue to sustain it on the next rounds. But definitely it's something we can keep in mind once we start seeing more of these founders exiting their startups and starting to create that bringing that experience into the venture building part. That will be something we might be exploring in the future.
The right formula بقى نسأل Fadi. Maybe we can even talk about an example, not necessarily an example that's far from our reach, something like an example sitting right here, the TFK, for example. What is the right formula, maybe that, or the template?
No, but what he's saying is very true. I'll give the example of TFK, which is a bit, I don't want to say conflicted, but different hat. I'm a bit less involved into operational 50. After 5 years and seeing how this has been done, how to exit, how to grow the companies, I decided personally to go in and create my own startup and get A15 as the first investor, and now I'm doing the follow-up round. But the idea is from the experience that we've got and some of the network of our partners got from building and growing the companies and exiting, now we're looking into another person who's done the same to come back and start. We understand what the market wants, how to build the right company and how to grow it, even how to exit if needed at a certain first stage. But yeah, definitely learning and getting from the wealth and from the learning experience we've had in doing that gives us a very strong push, experience to do it again.
Now that we're seeing investors becoming entrepreneurs, so we're doing something right. At least we're inspiring them in the right way. They are going into the entrepreneurship side. instead of giving the money, but the money is still important. Capital is still quite important. Let's not lose hope. And before we end this panel, and I hope you guys enjoyed the brilliance of everyone, I would like to maybe end it with Amal as well as we started. Perhaps you can also tell us what's the importance and what was the reason behind this venture. I don't know, can you explain to us the structure in Saudi about Sanabel and 500 and why is this a strategic partner ensuring long-term prospects for your portfolio?
Definitely. I mean, one of the strategies that 500 have implemented globally is having strategic partners on the ground. Part of the reason is just to be more connected really to the network, right? More able to influence whether it's policies or basically working directly with some of the corporations and having access to all the types of institutions. That will give us sort of visibility that our startups will be able to access as needed. We will be able to reach out to the partners. This is what the company is looking for. It becomes so easy rather than having multiple calls to reach. We literally do it directly. So we need to cultivate these relationships all the way. So now the partnership came early this year with the launch of the accelerator, and they're actually the subsidiary of PIF, and they became our actually sponsor for the program. And that partnership have helped us a lot in structuring, 500 in the region and to have that expansions that we're doing. Now, in terms of the program itself, the program will allow you to do something. So one of the things that was mentioned, if a company wants to come and set up, for example, in Saudi, that is part of what we do, walking them step by step into the whole process until it's done. Another thing is just being in the program on its own, starting from building their data room, cleaning the cap table, getting them in shape where they graduate to the end of the program, where they are completely ready for another VC or different rounds. And that's part of what we do within the program, is avail these connections. So by demo day, they could be actually announcing, their rounds. So basically those partnerships are our way to be really rooted, in every country that we go in, and basically build these partnerships even across countries. So we're able to really attract, the companies. So hopefully by being here today, meeting all these wonderful people that has amazing, discussions, now we're starting to pinpoint, possibilities and other partnerships that we want to build. And then we have to cascade it obviously on the startup level and bring them up to that. So yeah, of course.
And perhaps we can end on a point where for you.
For me. Okay, not for you.
Not for me. Just before I wrap up. No, I mean like from Ahmed, the investment professional, forget 500 خلاص خلينا نتكلم معاك. What do you recommend for aspiring or junior investment professionals when they come in and open for the first time their investment thesis, now that we know that venture capitals, one day, very soon, the word capital might be changed to partnerships, so venture partnerships, and this is where the world is heading, more long-term and less short-term, flipping your investment and making money. What's the last thing you can maybe give these investment professionals?
I'm loving that. See, I'm not so old in the game, right? I'm originally an angel investor, originally an ecosystem builder. I spent the past decade moving from one country to another, North Africa, South Africa, US, Canada, the region, the GCC, only meeting entrepreneurs and building those relationships, understanding what they go through from idea stage, what do they need after that, what do we need to build that idea, who do we need to talk to, what is the right business model. It was always a people game. For me, it was always about whom am I passing them in the next. Yesterday we're walking, I'm pushing them, like I'm pulling, this person over here who's sitting with me on the middle, where are you? Come and meet this entrepreneur. So I think this will be the ultimate value. If you're able to sit and meet that entrepreneur and you're able to pass them, whether to that connection or to that investor and open the possibilities. One very funny incident, I was having lunch with investors yesterday, and then someone was talking about a startup. I was asking about a particular sector. I went down and this lady comes to me and she starts pitching. I said, did you speak to this person by any chance? No, yeah. I said, I was just talking about you. And this other person asked about you. So let's go talk to him now. So the best value add, I think we have to have this vulnerability to listen to the startup, to really understand where are they coming from, to be able to help them on the human level before anything, before the money, right? Second thing is like, what do I need to get them to the right level so I can invest in them at this stage, right? What do I need to actually give them in order to have the other investors start looking at them and cultivate that relationship over time? So beyond capital, capital is important, but even the startup that comes directly for capital will know after that there is more than that once you start offering them all these networks, connections, advices, and all of these stuff. So always focus on the human level, understand where they come from, focus on why is that magical, right? It's the problems that they're trying to solve and how can you really help them forward. And education. There's nothing wrong with educating yourself, meeting amazing people and ask and listen, always. And the investment scene is always changing, and that's what I noticed. It's like, whatever was done 10 years ago, then 5 years ago, last month.
It's not relevant anymore.
It's crazy how these things change, so I think
Recording
it's
in progress.
staying connected and staying relevant, yeah. So I think that was my cue.
Yeah, that was everyone's cue, but I want to thank you guys very much for your generosity in terms of time, not the time that you gave us today here, because it's like only 35 minutes, but in general, when the time and the hands-on work and the effort you put, it really shows us that it has to be long-term, because why would people, investment professionals at the peak of their careers really stop and clean the data room of someone if they're not looking to exit in the coming 5 years and not in the coming 5 weeks. So we are validating, I hope, for you guys the whole long-term direction that a lot of investment firms and companies, corporates that I personally represent, we're looking at long-term strategies. So thank you guys a lot, and on this note, hope you had enjoyed that panel. Thank you. Thank you, Hussein, for joining us virtually.